Yo guys, what is up? Welcome back to another video. Today we are going to be discussing a possible future heavyweight matchup in Francis Ngannou versus Jon Jones. Now, of course, this is a very possible matchup. Moving on in the future, if Jones does decide to move up to heavyweight, and let's say hypothetically Francis beats Stipe when they face each other again, then we could be seeing a possible future matchup with these two. So let's dive straight in, nonetheless, and begin with Jon Jones. Now, I am going to have to begin on a few negatives here. The first being, it seems that for the longest time with Jon, he's been a little bit too reliant on his reach advantage. And, I mean, again, this is documented. Every time he's had somebody who has successfully been able to negate the reach advantages that he has struggled, right? So Machida was able to do it, and he cracked Jon. Alexander Gustafsson in their first fight. And of course, most recently, Dominic Reyes, whom many people believed beat Jon and was quote unquote robbed. So every time that somebody's been able to overcome that hurdle of that freakishly long reach that Jon has, they've found quite significant success. And that is going to be the case with Francis Ngannou, because Francis Ngannou is huge, and that reach advantage just isn't going to be there for Jon. Right? That's just how it is. The reach advantage is not going to be there. So how does Jon deal with that and overcome that and make the necessary adjustments? We'll have to see. Secondly, you have the issue of, are Jon Jones kicks going to have the same success as with the majority of the opponents he faced at light heavyweight, right? So most notably, I think, if you look at the second fight with Alexander Gustafsson, he was chewing up Gustafsson's legs, and eventually, had mauled Gustafsson's legs that much that he really couldn't put much weight on them, and that's when he just blasted through Gustafsson with a double leg, took him down and finished the fight. So are the kicks going to have the same advantage for Jones in this fight? I don't believe so. I mean, do you really think that an oblique kick or a front leg side kick or a teep will stop the forwards progression of a steam rolling Francis Ngannou? I don't think so. Francis Ngannou has also got some terrifying leg kicks. They really did come into fruition against JDS, but I've been seeing Francis Ngannou drill leg kicks with his team since he fought Andrei Arlovski, excuse me. And I mean, he was taking his trainers off of his feet back then with his leg kicks. So if he wanted to, I mean, he could fuck Jones's legs up pretty badly, because Jones has got some unnaturally skinny legs. And I mean, look at the success that Reyes, Santos had with leg kicks. Now, of course, obviously, we go into Jon Jones's boxing defense, and this is something that I've noticed more and more, and was highlighted to me, particularly in the Dominic Reyes fight, of just how dependent Jon really is on that reach advantage. And when somebody can break through that barrier, his boxing defense really isn't there. I mean, he's pulling back on punches that he really shouldn't be pulling back with. I mean, he's pulling back on straights. I mean, you really should be slipping straights. I mean, he's biting heavily to very minor feints. He doesn't really roll with punches. He sort of just puts his hand up and slides back, which is terrible, because what happens if something comes over the top? I mean, all of that against Francis is not going to do you any favors. I mean, even in the slightest, it's not going to help you at all, and you're just setting yourself up for downfall with something like that. And that is something that Jon is really going to have to work on, because his head movement also really isn't the best. I mean, Jon is very, very good at scaling the fence and resetting back to the centre. But against someone like Francis, is he going to let you do that? Is he going to let you have the freedom to move wherever you want? Because, we know now that Francis has realised he can't just go in there and steamroll people, right? He has to be patient, pick his shots, and wait for his opportunities to arise. So is a patient Francis going to allow Jon to do that, right? Because you saw, he was backing JDS up very well. And then when JDS reset, he'd hit him with a leg kick. And then, JDS made one error. He overextended on a right overhand, and that was the fight done. You know what I mean? And, Jon Jones's boxing is certainly nowhere near to the levels of JDS's. So let's see how that goes. Now on to the positives that Jon Jones brings, right? The first, of course, is his fight IQ. Jon is very, very, very intelligent. And it was the same deal with Stipe. Stipe knew that Francis was coming into that first fight on the larger end of the scales. I mean, I think Francis came into that fight just shy of 270 pounds. He hadn't really had the most intensive of camps. Stipe probably realised Francis was riding a bit of an ego wave, and just thought he was going to plough through Stipe, which of course didn't happen. So Jon is very intelligent, and I think would be able to find pathways of success where they presented themselves. The issue is that, fight IQ only takes you so far, right? And if you get cracked with Francis, it's not if he hits you, he hits hard, there's a really good chance he'll knock you out. It's if he hits you clean, he's knocking you out, right? I mean, look at the victims he's piled up on his resume. Curtis Blades twice, Alistair Overeem, Cain Velasquez, JDS, Jairzinho Rosenstrike in 20 seconds. I mean, the guy, Andrei Arlovsky, I mean, the guy has piled up a resume of KOs. I think 4 KOs in under 2.5 minutes. I mean, that just shows consistency in his power, and that this guy, if he catches you clean, he will knock you out. And people are going to say, oh, well, Jon Jones has a fantastic chin. I mean, he's never even been knocked down. Well, has Jon Jones ever been cracked clean by even a bog standard sized heavyweight, let alone somebody on the larger end of the spectrum like Francis? Because there was a few bits of information that came out of Jon's team when the talks of him moving up to heavyweight really started to gain some traction, that he was training with heavyweights and he was ragdolling them, right? Now, whether they were just standard-sized heavyweights, because you look at Stipe, who came into that fight really slim built. I mean, him and Jon had probably come in around the same size. I think Jon had come in around 230. So, I mean, you have to think about that and say to yourself, well, is he ragdolling standard-sized heavyweights, right? Because he's certainly not going to ragdoll someone like Francis. And then finally, to finish off with Jon, of course, we have his wrestling. Now, I have no doubt if Jon is committed to the takedown, he would take Francis down, right? If you can take Daniel Cormier down, then you can take Francis Ngannou down, right? The issue is we saw in the Thiago Santos fight this reluctancy to take the fight to the floor for some reason. He fought that fight in a very strange manner. And I think if you don't choose that path against Francis, you're going to be in for a bit of trouble. And then, of course, you have the miscellaneous aspects of it, like will his chin hold up at heavyweight? Will he be more powerful? Will his speed be affected? Will his cardio be affected? These are all things that you have to take into consideration when you're making a heavyweight move, because you look at someone like Gustafsson, who moved up, didn't do well, got submitted against Fabricio Verdum in the first round, just didn't go well at all. So we'll see how that goes. Moving on to Francis. Now, obviously, it is clear that Francis's path to victory here is via knockout. And I think the chances of Francis actually securing a knockout are quite high because Francis has now developed a patient game. He's realised that what he did against Stipe and what he went in there trying to achieve is not going to work with guys at the top of the food chain, right? It's not going to happen. Guys are too smart to be just bulldozed, you know what I mean? So Francis has now adopted this patient style, the very similar one to what he had when he first came into the UFC, when he fought, Luis Enrique and like Curtis Blades for the first time, guys like that, just where he was very, very patient and he was picking his shots. And it's something that Francis is going to have to sort of make a choice with here because Reyes laid out a bit of a blueprint in their fight that if you put work on Jon, he can't really cope with it. But Francis doesn't have the gas tank to put work on Jon. It's something his size doesn't allow. There's too much muscle, and therefore too much muscle that requires oxygen carried to it. So it's something that his size is not going to allow, and it's something it's just unachievable. It's not going to happen. So Francis is going to have to come into this fight patient, and I would expect to see reluctancy to engage from Jon. I would expect to see Francis to some sort of degree leading the dance. I would like to see Francis go to those leg kicks because I think a few of those from Francis is going to destroy Jones's lead leg. He's going to have to switch. You beat up both legs, all of a sudden, then you're taking away a lot of the power from the takedowns. That ability to drive through as efficiently isn't going to be there. You're taking away a lot of the kicks of Jon as well, the movement, because Jon does like to escape out to the side, sort of jog his way back to the centre at times. So you're taking that away from him as well. This is a bit of a tricky one because obviously now I'm trying to pose myself the question, who am I going to go with here? The answer would probably have to be, at this point in time, I'd pick Francis just for the fact that he's proven, he's a proven knockout artist, right? And we haven't seen Jon at heavyweight. And I just think that Jon has too many tendencies and too many facets that Francis can take advantage of to find real success. And I think the only real success that Jon would have here would be if he, took Francis down and dominated Francis. But again, is Francis going to expect Jon to take a grappling heavy approach? We don't really know. I'm going to go with Francis, and I could genuinely see him getting Jon out of there in the first or second round. It's an interesting one. It's an interesting one, man. Certainly, please, more than ever, let me know what you think in the comments with this one. I might turn this into a bit of a mini series if you guys like to see that. Just like a fantasy matchup series. So if you do want to see that, do let me know. Make sure to like and subscribe for more breakdowns, predictions, and everything else MMA. And I will catch you guys next time. Have a good day, and I'll see you later, boys.